this scenario, we're going to be dealing with animals for the example. But to start off with, we're going to deal with a stall class. Now, a stall is like, so if we've got a farm, and a farm has a stall in it. And a stall is the idea that there's an individual location where the animals can be. So it's going to be part of Pac-Man. And we're just going to quickly create our stall. It's going to have a private string. The stall is going to have a name, I don't know why, private int size, and then perhaps a private fence height. Okay, so we've got those three variables there. I'm going to create the default constructor. I'm also going to create the fully parameterized constructor. I'm actually thinking perhaps, yeah, no, I'll leave it like this. So name, remember your defaults, you should always give your blank values. I'm not going to go into details of this. I'm going to pause the video as well. Bam!
Your brain is exploding.
Yeah, now, what we've got here, so we've got our class created, and that's all fair and well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create our animal. Now, Java class, we're going to call it animal. And when we go down there, when we create our fields, our animal can have a private, zoom in, can have a private string fail, private string fail. It could have the, well, hello, what am I doing? Stop doing that. Okay, the animal will have a name, and it will have a type. So in other words, pig, donkey, and whatnot. Now here's the slight difference in this example over other examples, is it's going to have a type stall, and this is where the where it is its home, if you will. So where it is kept. Do you guys get that? So all I've done is I've created a field as a class here, and it's going to be a stall type. Now the interesting thing is when you create your constructors, your name default is brackets. Type is obviously also blank. But now home, what would the default of home be? The answer to that is null. N-U-L-L. So null literally just stores empty, saying there is no such thing. Well, there's nothing at the moment. It's equivalent of blank, or in the case of an integer, 0. So for any class type, or you could make it null. Technically, because string is also a class, I could also do that. But for example, if we had an integer of private int weight, for example, you'll notice there that weight will not be able to be null, and the reason why it can't be null is because it's a data type, it's not a class. So weight would have to be 0. But things like any class could be called null. So in some ways, you could even just call your strings null. I'm not too fussed on either way. Actually, I'm not even sure what the latest is on what the best option for blank is, but quite frankly the whole point of it is just to have something so you initialize so you can work with the variable you want to glitches later on. Anyway, so now in the fully parameterized constructor, you'll see that you also receive through the class stall. So home is received as an instance of that class, so it's an object that gets sent through, so not just a data type or anything like that, it's an object, which technically we've been dealing with all the time, so this isn't much complicated because string is a class as well. But now we're dealing with a class that we've created. And for some reason, people seem to get confused as soon as you use a class as a parameter. It's like, it's freaking me out, man. But why? It's the same as a string or anything else. You're just passing it through the memory reference, actually. And there is actually something, a slight item to take note here. When you, and I'm going to use Excel to explain this. I like using Excel to explain what's happening in RAM. Because of the locations, etc. When you, and in C++ it deals with something called pointers. Now in Java you don't directly deal with pointers, but in C++ you do. Now let's say if I had the value 10, and this is now int data type, right? Now if I sent that through to a parameter, so let's say this is inside my main class, so my main class refers to an int and it calls it I. Sorry, let me zoom in on this so people can see it on the YouTube or whatever. So in my main class, if I have an int 10 called I, and now pass it through to a class animal in this case. So let's say this is my weight, and let's say the weight was 10, and I then send it through to animal, which is obviously also turned into as a parameter. It will literally create a copy of that value and just hold that value. So this will physically exist a 10. But now when we're talking about a stall or any class type, except for a string, I would be confused about it. Actually, I would need to do a bit of research on that. But anyway, so if we have a home, which is a stall type, now technically this just tells you E10. So E10 would have the stall, which would be size 500. The stall name would be, I'm going to call the stall, give me a name for a stall in a farm.
Slaughterhouse 1.
Slaughterhouse 1. Okay, Slaughterhouse 1. So now, this has got a name, Slaughterhouse 1, size 500, with a fence height of 2 meters. Like, give them a chance to free themselves. Maybe not a good chance, but well, 2. Okay, so then, now you check, there's a name, there's a size, and all the rest, and a height of the fence. Now, you see, this just refers to E10, and now when you pass it through to the animal class, all it does is refer to E10. So that means that what the animal class is working with is the same as what it's working with here. It's not a new value. So now if I edited this value to be 8, the value inside the main class would still be 10. Whereas if I edited this to be size 400, or so we cut off a bit of it because we ended up using it for Slaughterhouse 4 or whatever, then it will also be changed at the home level. Do you guys get this? And this memory sort of address can come in handy at later stages, but it's just something to bear note of. Anyway, moving on swiftly. We now have our getters and setters. So again, there's nothing fancy about this. Bam, we've created a getter and setter. One thing you'll notice with our get home, it returns again a class type. So again, this is not anything different to returning a string, but now you've seen it. And also same thing with set, you receive through the parameter, the stall. So now you're working with instances. Now we'll get into the whole idea of creating it just now, or getting over that. Now, the next item that might be slightly confusing is the toString. Now in the toString, we would return the name of the animal is what type of the animal it is, and then we would return the weight of the animal. How do you spell weighs? Not like that, I don't think.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that right? Serious? Huh. Oh, look at that. And weight. So I think that's all. Now with the stall part, I'm going to put on a new line, and all we can do is we can go. Maybe I should move it so you can see it a bit better. For the home, we'll just go home.toString. So now literally what will happen is the stall.toString would be returned and put into there. So now everything that's here will be put into there. Now, if I go back, well, yeah, that's it. That's literally the concept. Is we've got now we can refer to a class inside there. That's the main thing that I'm going through here. Is that you just got a class that you created inside another class, and then now you'll create the class called farm, and the farm would now have an array of your animals. So now animal any. No. We want so private animals is equal to new animal. Oh, I forgot to put square brackets around this thing. So it's an array, and it's going to be of size 500. And we're then going to create a counter or num animals. Oh, zoom in. Forget. Okay, so we're going to go array animals, and we just want to create that. And we would then create, this is now also another item, when we go add animal, we would have the exact same parameters as we have in our fully parameterized constructor here. And again, the big difference here is that there's now just a instance of a class inside there. So we've got the add home. Now, this should be void. And now we'll just go animals, position num animals. So same thing as we've always done is equal to new animal. Fully parameterized num animals plus plus. So as easy as that. Is you literally just initialize the position in the array of the num animals, so the next position in the array, u plus plus. And then what you'll notice is if I now go and I create a and now if I go and create my constructor, just my default constructor, we'll start off with 0 animals because we don't have any animals yet, and now we would need to read from the text file. Now, with me being silly, I haven't created a text file yet, so let's quickly create the text file. Just a reminder, the text file has to be inside your project folder. So in this case, if we're under the Google Share, I'm creating this under IT General Resources, Notes, example 210. It needs to be inside your project folder to start off with, so we're going to create it. It's going to be called animals.txt. And here's where you would have to take a look at your text file, but generally speaking it would have, okay, this is interesting, we've created the first one, and I decided that the fence height is 1.5 meters. Now if we deal with the decimals, can integers deal with decimals?
No.
So what data type can deal with decimals?
No.
Float. So we could change this into a private float fence height. Obviously it will also ask me to change all the other stuff as well, which is a bit annoying, but yeah. I just think that it's worthwhile sort of dealing with the floats on occasions, because I don't want you to get it in an exam and then be confused. What's happening here? One thing you'll all notice is my setter didn't give me an error, and the reason why is because an integer can be stored inside a float, but a float can't be stored inside an integer. It'll give issues, or it won't, or can't be returned there. So I'm going to make this also a float over here. But yeah, so a float will allow you to store decimal places. So let's continue with this.
Bam! We are sadists.
Now with the okay, so we've now got a couple of examples in here. Now we've already picked up there is a little bit of issue with our thing, the item, the fact that we have to, and also in here our normalization, the fact that we have to repeat data for greenhouse, for example, or slaughterhouse 2. I'm not going to get into that with this video on improving that, but for now it's just as example to work with this. Now in here we're now going to read from that text file. We all know how to read from a text file. The first thing is you actually say there is a file. The file exists. Hey, why are you not allowing me to? Okay, LD, use the capital letter if you want. Okay, file f is equal to new file, and we are getting it from the string, and it's from animals.txt. Now, what we can do here is we can go if f.exists. True or false? If it exists. So in other words, if animals.txt doesn't exist, this would return back false. So just for interest sake, you can do that check here as well. Technically, the try catch could also potentially handle that.
You need an else statement, so you can just use the exclamation mark before the error code exists.
Because here I'm just wanting to print the error, whereas in here I would want to actually continue and actually do the items. I want two different occurs if it does work or if it doesn't work. Oh yeah, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a scanner, and scanner SCF is equal to a new scanner, and we are wanting to scan a file if semicolon while SCF dot has next. Now remember, this is a never-ending loop until I actually create a string record is equal to SCF dot next line, and then we would go and we would break down that string into its different sections. Now again, we error here, and that's because we have to throw the exception, file not found exception, even though technically this exception wouldn't occur because we already said if dot exists. So, but it's not quite handled, so we have to throw it anyway. But it will never actually happen. Just for interest's sake, you file not found exception is a inherits exception. If you just go exception, it will throw any form of exception, not just specific type. Okay, so we get each record. Now we have to actually work through the record. Now there's going to be a slight difference here. We obviously still have, we're going to create our scanner to scan through the record, and we're going to go new scanner. Now the only difference here from the usual way we deal with this is that some people like doing this on the same line. I'm just being lazy and doing it on the same line. You could do it as a separate line. Do you guys prefer me doing it as a separate line? Okay. Okay, now after we've got that, we now can separate them into each component. But now if we take a look at our text file, there's actually a the view is quite, I want to zoom in, but it doesn't last. There we go. I want to zoom further. Ah, big button. Okay, so now you'll notice that there's in here, these three items pertain to the actual animal. This pertains to the stall. So that's the only slight difference. The first few deal with that, the second ones deal with that. Now,
Apologize for the interruption.
now the next thing that we got here is we're now going to move. I've now lost track of where I was. Okay, so the first thing that we got is we are getting in the string. So we look at the text file, and you always just work from the same order. So it goes the name of the animal. So string name, comma, is equal to scr dot next. The next item that we have in our text file is the type. So string type is equal to scr dot next. The next thing we have in our text file is the weight. So, and the weight is an int. Next int. And our next one is a what?
Float.
No, it's the next one is actually part of the slaughterhouse, and this is the slaughterhouse name. And if we take a look at our stall, which is our stall name, so I'm going to then call it string stall name is equal to scr dot next. Now the next thing that we got is our size of our int stall size, and that's going to be equal to scr. So we just read through everything as it exists. Now here it becomes slightly more different because now we've got the stall fence height, and in this case scr, you'll notice that there's not an option of dot oh, it does have an next float, look at that. Okay, so dot next float, so it's as easy as that. Now after we've got this, we've got all the information in, we actually need to do something else. We actually need to create a temporary stall instance. So I'm going to go stall st is equal to new stall. So I literally create a new instance of my stall, and I can then send through. So I can now go add animal. I send through the name, I send through the weight, and I send through the stall.
Yes.
Easy as that.
Yes.
So now what we've done is we've got name, type, weight, and stall. We've sent through to there, and the stall we create an instance of, and we then pass it through to you. So do you guys get that? Okay. Now so that's the biggest difference. Now when we actually do our toString here, when we do our toString, we just got to then append on all plus equals animals position I dot toString plus a enter. Now that we've done that, we now need to create our GUI interface. Now for our GUI interface, right click new Java frame, GUI, and inside our GUI, I'm not going to do a fancy GUI at all right now. I'm just going to set the layout to a grid layout. I'm then going to put in my text area, and then change my text area to be txt display. Now I create my instance of my working class. So we want to create an instance of our farm. So farm, so private farm f is equal to new farm. I like calling it manager always, but f man, whatever, farm. Now that we've created the farm, I'll create a method called, oh sorry, I'm not allowed to initialize it here. Why can't I initialize it here? Anybody? Because what did I do with the exception? I threw it. So it means that I actually need to initialize it in here so that I can handle the exception. So now if there is an exception, I'm going to surround with the try catch, and inside the try catch I'll then, so this if there's any errors like incorrect data types that are found or blah blah. So in other words, if the text file had a text value here, it would then be caught by this. And then I'd go sir tab error in text file, error in constructor space plus ex. And I would normally also try to display something to the user to go, hey, we are doomed. Yeah. Ooh, zoom in. I forgot. So we declared it, we initialized it, we surrounded it with the try catch by clicking on the red icon on the side. We added an error message to the program and an error message to that. So now we're going to create a private void damn it, display all. And all we're going to do here is go txt display.setText to fman.toString. Done. Right, if we press play now, let's just double check that it does work. And we wait. Ooh, access is denied. Well, I've got that open, but I mean that shouldn't make a difference with regards to access denied. Unless it's not really trying to run this one. Run. Ooh. File not found exception. Google resources access is denied. Desktop.ini. Why is it trying to access desktop.ini? Delete it. Delete it. Run. That was the oddest error ever. I've never seen that before. And it's still not working. Yeah, so that was interesting because for one, the desktop.ini was not allowing me to run the program, which is very odd. The second thing that's very odd is that it's not displaying anything, meaning that something's going pear-shaped. So now let's take a look at this. Firstly, let's see what this toString calls. It does call this num animals. Did I plus my num animals? Yes. So there's animals happening in here. I do run my add animals. F.exists. Maybe this is not allowing, but it's not printing out error file doesn't exist. It's not printing out anything. It just says build successful. So it's not getting caught there. While SCF has next, so let's look at animals.txt. For example, animals.txt. The data is there. Okay, so problem solving. Yay. So let's go and here just go site stall Let's just see what happens. Let's just see if it does actually add them to the array. Okay, so all of them are being added to the array. Oh, you know what's happening? I'm being an idiot. Everything's working fine in the back end. It's the front end and the GUI that's not working. Because I've created a method called displayAll. Have I ever called that method? So it's after I initialize my farm, I should run the displayAll method, and then it will actually run. So now if I run that, you'll see that it says flamingo and so forth inside there. Bob is a baboon. Bob size. Uh-oh. This is wrong.
It's good you called name and not store name.
Well, no. Well, technically. Oh, you know what it is? Yes, you're right, but not in the same area that you're talking. You are 100% correct, but not in the same area. It wasn't in the toString. It was actually here when I initialized it. And here, instead of sending through stall name here, I sent through just name. So this should be stall. And this shouldn't be wait, should it? What should this be? Stall fence height. So
Control space bar strikes again.
now, and the reason why it doesn't work is because in my stall, I didn't change this from an integer to a float. Okay, so let's try this again. And voila! Yay. Bob is a baboon of weight. And interestingly enough, I'm just going to show you this in this video. Why not? Because I can. The text size is too small to show on the document, so I can just go to your properties on the right hand side and you can change the size of it. It's a very simple thing, but yeah. Simple until, and also for interest's sake, if you set here extended state, there's another field here, extended state, which I can't find, so I'm just blabbering to try look while there's something called extended state in here. Now extended state will determine whether the frame, oh I'm on the wrong property, so if you click on the frame and you then go to extended state and then you say 6, if you set the extended state of the frame, so in your navigator here you choose the frame and you set the extended state to 6, it means when you run it'll automatically be maximized. So you'll see now it's maximized, and now we can see Bob is a baboon who weighs 60, Porky is a pig, Stuart is a mouse, and which different items there. Now, what is the issue with my OOP? What is the issue with my OOP at the moment? With the object-oriented principles?
Got like 2 classes.
I've got 2 classes, but how many instances of stall am I creating? I'm creating multiple, because I mean, of the same stall, every single time there's a new animal in a stall, I create a new instance in RAM. So I'm using up more RAM than I need to. But we'll cover that another time.